Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, April 6th, 2026. Hey guys, so we started this episode. This episode is not really much to talk about because this episode pretty much centered around um, Naomi and Jacob's relationship. Jacob texted Isaiah and asked him to come to the meeting place where he normally meets Naomi, and he came, and then they talked, and Isaiah apologized for putting Jacob in a tough spot when he asked Naomi to let him use the burner so that his mom can talk to Jacob. So he apologized for that, and Jacob was like, we're all good. And then he talked to his brother about his mother's treatment of Eva, and come to find out that's just Darlene's way. She wasn't necessarily treating Eva any kind of way, not necessarily because of what she's heard about Eva or any of that. The reason that she um treats Jacob treated Eva like that is that's how she treats anyone who tries to date her son. She's one of those women who thinks that their sons walk on water, and no girl is ever good enough for her son, and that these girls are just trying to get her son. And I don't, if you can tell, I don't really kind of like that kind of situation because anyway, so that is we learned that about Darlene in a flashback. And Jacob basically tells his brother that if you want Eva to stick around, you got to get used to mom's shade, and because that's just the way it is, and that's just how it's going to be. And then when Isaiah is leaving, Jacob asked him to do him a favor, and we see at the end that he had Isaiah go to him and Naomi's apartment and put out the rose petals and deliver flowers and leave a card for her. And she read the card, and um, it was it was actually a decent episode. It was a decent, like, backstory of Naomi and Jacob. They talked about, excuse me, how they got together. They spoke about that. She flashed back with Ashley about how they got together, and Ashley's role in it. And then she left Orphe Jeans with Ashley and then went to her mom's house, and her mom had bubbles and things, to celebrate with Naomi. And they talked about how Jacob actually asked for Danny's hand in marriage, and we got to flash back to when Jacob came to ask Danny for that. And it was just nice to see Danny kind of giving Jacob a little bit of a hard time, but in her Danny kind of way. It was good. I enjoyed the little snippets. We flashed back to their wedding, and we actually got to see what happened at the wedding, because they alluded to a situation taking place at the wedding with Isaiah and his dad at the wedding, and it did, something did transpire, and we were able to actually see that. And then Naomi left her mom's house and she went home, and Bill came over, and Bill's like trying to give Jacob a hard time. And she's like, look, where was all this dad overprotectiveness when you arrested mom? Because you caused problems in our marriage when you did that. And he's like, and she's like, standing up for Jacob because she gonna ride for him. She gonna die for him. No, I'm just joking. But, that happened. But yeah, like I said, this episode wasn't too much. It was only a few people in the episode because, like I said, it was just Naomi talking to Ashley, Danny, and Belle, and then Jacob talking to Isaiah, and then them flashing back to different parts of their courtship. But yeah, today has been an eventful day. I'm still waiting for um, the full episode of General Hospital to show up on Hulu at 8 o'clock, which is in about an hour and a half. And then I'll be back to do the General Hospital recap. And yeah, today was crazy. Absolutely insane. But let me know what you thought of today's episode in the comments, and I'll see you guys for a more normal day, hopefully, as long as we have no preemptions tomorrow. Bye. Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, April 7th, 2026. So in this episode, we start at the Grands. Anita is working on something, and Vernon comes in and he's chatting with her about what she's working on. And then Danny comes over in a tizzy a bit. And Gran is like, "What's going on with you?" And Danny is like, "I just got the proofs back from my photo shoot and I'm freaking out." And Gran was like, "Well, I'm going to leave you to worry about that. And I'm going to go ahead to Martin's." And Anita's like, "Who do I look like? Boo Boo the Fool?" And she said, "You can pull the wool over some of the people some of the time, but you can't never pull the wool over your mama." And so she's like, "You trying to have her babysit me?" And he's like, and then when he leaves, Anita's telling Danny, like, don't encourage him. Like, I still have autonomy. Let me still have my autonomy, and like, don't encourage it. And Danny was like, "I was doing that." And she was like, "Unknowingly." And so, she still is in a bit of a tizzy about the photo shoot. She is a little anxious about um she's a little anxious about looking at the photos, and she's anxious about how she can compete with today's model, being that she is a woman, a seasoned woman. I'm not gonna call her older because ain't nothing old about Danny, but because she's a seasoned woman, she is having trouble, trying to figure out her place in the industry right now. And her mom's talking to her and about how when she moved from the articulates to being solo, she kind of went through a similar transition. And she tells Danny that success is in her DNA. And it's a great conversation, and it was a good conversation because it was a good day for Anita, and it wasn't necessarily centered around cancer, so it was good for on all fronts. Then we have Martin and Smitty, and Smitty is in the mood for a little bit of afternoon delight. And Martin is like, "Yeah, granddad is on his way over to talk about my campaign," which is Smitty's like way of getting out of the house so that he can go meet Jacob. So Gran comes over to talk about campaign, stuff with Martin. And Martin also tells him that his campaign manager was suggesting that he beef up security, and Gran encourages this as well because he getting more recognition, and it's just the way of the world right now, and for safety you should do so. Excuse me, it's been a long day. It's been a long day. But anyway, he encourages this, and so We have Donnell and Samantha. Samantha gets to Orphe Jeans and she's meeting Donnell and they're having breakfast. And June is there and they're talking to June, and June is watching like a hawk, and she picks up on the fact that Samantha does have a crush on Donnell. However, I don't know how far in college Donnell is, but she's a junior in high school. So he's college, she's a junior in high school. You know, he's a little bit too old for her. And, he is real cool with her. He doesn't treat her like a kid, but she is a kid. So like he is being respectful, but she has the crush. And so he tells her that he used to have a crush on Chelsea, and it makes her feel a kind of way. But anyway, he leaves eventually, and she's talking to June, and she asks June if she will come to the cotillion. And June is like, no, like, I don't belong there. And she's like, you sound like Tyrell. He's afraid that he's going to embarrass Jessica. And she's like, oh, Jessica would be lucky to have Tyrell. He's a real gentleman, but I don't belong there. So Samantha is like, will you please just think about it? And June's like, yeah, no, I can't. And I got to go help a customer. Um, I actually understand both sides to this. I understand that the Duprees are intimidating in that world are intimidating. So I can understand June not wanting to, or being afraid or intimidated by that, not really want to participate. But I also understand Samantha wanting to include her, because when she was talking to Donnell, she was saying how she appreciates having her mother in her life, because she doesn't have, like, her house, she lives with a bunch of men. So like having June to put the estrogen in the air is, good for her. However, Samantha also has to realize that everybody, even though the Duprees are far more down to earth than anyone gives them credit for, she has to realize that they live a life that most people aren't accustomed to, and they may not feel comfortable with. And that's where June is. She doesn't feel comfortable. And I know you have good intentions and you love her no matter what. And even your family embraces her, but she's not comfortable with it. Like I said, I understand all sides to this coin. Then we have, I'm gonna skip the next people because that was funny. So then we have Smitty and Jacob there in the alley, and they're talking, and Smitty basically wants to go in deeper into this investigation, and he wants to be more of a help to Jacob. So he wants to go into the hospital and kind of try and, fill things out a little bit more, because honestly, he does need someone on his side in on the hospital figuring this out, because he kind of hit a wall with Grayson, and Grayson is only going to reveal but so much, and I think he's not revealing anymore. So like he kind of does need Smitty, but then it's kind of naive of Smitty to kind of go in, because like this is dangerous and you're not a cop. Jacob is a cop, so he has a fighting chance of possibly making it. He has a fighting chance of coming out alive more than Smitty does, I would say. But he wants to help. And finally, after a lot of back and forth, which I'm so sick of them meeting outside, like it's so freaking dangerous. But after a while, he Jacob agrees to let him help, and we'll see how this goes. Then we have the best for last. Best for last, because I love someone handing over Leslie and Eva ASS on a platter. But anyway, so Isaiah and Eva are having lunch with Isaiah's mother. And like I said yesterday, her her demeanor is her demeanor, no matter who it is, because she treated Naomi the same way that she's treating Eva currently. However, Eva and her mother have garnered that type of treatment because her mother is incessant, and I don't separate Eva from Leslie because Eva is just as complicit in the unscrupulous things that Leslie has done. So I don't separate the two. So Darlene ain't the one or two, and she is, you know, brash when speaking to Eva. So Leslie walks up and she's all mama bear, but Darlene is still like, girl. And it gets to a point where Darlene can't even stomach being around Leslie anymore. And she leaves the table, and Isaiah tries to talk her off. And then Eva overhears the conversation. But today was good. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and I'll be back tomorrow. Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, April 8th, 2026. So we start this episode at Bill and Associates, and Tomas comes in to see Bill, and he is giving Bill his letter of resignation. And Bill is like, "Is this because of Haley?" And he's like, "Yes." And he gives him this big speech about, how he learned so much, but he needs to go in a new direction because things basically have become untenable and, at the firm. And so he's like, um, yeah, okay. Yeah, you're not doing that. And he rips up his resignation and he throws it in the fireplace, and he tells him that he has, he thinks that Tomas is on to something when he thinks about it, because he runs it down and he comes to the conclusion that the mugging was a setup, which it was, but not in the way that he is thinking. He's thinking that Lynette lured Haley down to Uptown so that she can be mugged, and and Lynette can save her, and then Haley be indebted to her. Bill, you're so smart. So smart. So that's what Bill has come up with. And um it's funny. So we also have Lynette and Haley. Lynette has made a request of Haley. She wants some dollar bills, y'all. So she wants Haley to get her a couple $1,000,000 so that she can retire and live comfortably. And then if she doesn't give her the money, then she's threatening to tell Bill all about Haley's past. And Haley basically agrees, but she tells her there's a condition. You have to leave the DMV. She thinks that Lynette is leaving the DMV, but Lynette ends up meeting with Vanessa, talking about getting a penthouse condo. Child. I say, Haley, don't give Lynette a dime. Let her tell Bill, because Bill's stupid. He wants to believe you. He's not going to believe Lynette over you. And I don't think that Lynette has any proof of anything that she's saying. So let her tell him. That's what I say. Call her bluff. Bill wants to believe you. He's not going to believe her. He already is like, Tomas was like, nah, they're doing something together. Bill has said Lynette is doing this. Like, let her tell him. But I digress. Then Danny's at home and Vanessa comes over, and Vanessa is upset because she's still stewing from the double date and Deanna's still not talking to her. So she comes to talk to the therapist, Danny. Now, I don't know. I was about to say I'm no expert, but my sister is a therapist and I see a therapist. So maybe I am an expert. My therapist actually was like, "Did you ever think about doing a career change?" I digress. But anyway, Danny was like, "Have you thought about writing your feelings down?" I'm like, "Danny, who the hell are you, girl?" But anyway, she goes to see her therapist, Danny, and she's telling Danny, giving her the rundown of what's going on. Simultaneously, while this is happening, Kat is at the hospital with her mother, who was acting like a mother today. Can you believe it? Because Kat's parents are horrible. I'm sorry. Kat's parents are horrible, but her mother was being a mother today. And she's running it down, the two different versions of what happened at the double date. And it's kind of funny to watch. And Kat, like, basically came for the tea and then left. And then Danny was like, "Look, you love who you love. I know how it is. Like, I ain't think, I just went with the flow and I ended up with Andre, and he has me happier than I've ever been in a long time." She is, so do what you got to do. And if the people love you, they're going to love you regardless. If not, then, screw them, which is pretty solid advice, if it wasn't against your sister. But I mean, I get it. I get it. Like, you can't live your life for someone else. You have to live your life for you. But then there's the thing. She says she needs her daughter. Well, you got to make some choices. How bad do you really need your daughter? Is this man more important than your daughter? Sometimes you may have to ask yourself these questions. But anyway, then we have Ted and Chelsea. They're talking, and Ted gets on my nerves, and I just want to punch him in the face because he says to Chelsea that he hopes one day that Kat can make peace with Eva. Why? Why does Kat need to make peace with Eva? That is not, like, what don't you understand? The girl is malicious and Kat don't like her. You don't even, if she wasn't malicious and she didn't come in with intentions to carry out a plan that she carried out, even when she realized everything that her mother told her was a lie, she still went through with the plan. And this is why Kat doesn't like her. But even if that wasn't the case and Kat just didn't like her, Kat does not have to embrace her just because they're sisters. I'm sorry. Because you lay down with dogs and get up with fleas, I gotta be like, okay, I'll play with your little flea. No, I don't have to do that. Like, I'm sorry, that's how I feel. I have others, and if I don't want to play with them, I don't. Like, anyway, I digress. Then Gran and Naomi are at the house, and she's talking to her about Jacob and Gran being fresh because Gran will be fresh every day of her life. And she's talking about sex, and Naomi was like, "Girl," and then she was like, "How you think your mom and your aunt got here?" It's so funny to me because Grant, we don't need to hear that. I mean, we know that, but we don't need to hear that. So it's funny to me, um, you know, hearing and seeing Naomi's reaction. But they're talking, and we also have Chelsea and Kat. They meet each other at Uptown, because they're waiting for important news from the department store, or whether or not they're going to carry Chelsea Cat. And so they're anxious. So in their anxiety, they take it out on one another. You're the reason why our presentation sucked. And they're going back and forth. And she said, "You had too much edges." It was so funny. I was like, I'm not fooling with Chelsea Cat today because they were tripping. It was hilarious. And so Naomi, they're waiting for Naomi to call them with the news. So Naomi finally gets the news and she's like, "Gran, do you feel like a field trip today? Because I got to go break the news to the girls and I want you to come with me." And so Gran gets herself together and throws on her wig and stuff. And they go down to Uptown. And when they walk in, they going at it because they stupid. Chelsea Cat going at it. And so Gran nips that in the bud immediately, and they get themselves together like this. Like Gran says, "Stop," and they did. I love it. And so, Naomi tells them that they actually did get the deal, so they invite everybody down to Orphe Jeans, and Tomas was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going down," and Bill was like, "Nah, you good, but you still try to jump ship, so you got work to do. Go dig into Lynette's inconsistencies." So they go down to Orphe Jeans, Cat mad at Bill, and tells Bill that you better not let your wife run the show. I hollered. But yeah, that was and then they do a walkway because Chelsea is on her social media. It was so good. But let me know what you thought of today's episode in the. Hey guys, let's talk beyond the gates for today, April 9th, 2026. So we start this episode at Smitty and Martin's house, and Samantha is talking about how the internet is down, and they remind her that it's internet change day, and she goes to look where they keep their Wi-Fi password, which is so funny because I have my Wi-Fi password. I don't change mine often. Maybe shouldn't say that. But we also keep it in a centralized location in our home as well, so that everybody knows, like, even like when my sister comes into town, she knows to go if like she has a new phone, because sometimes her phone automatically connects when she comes here, but sometimes when she comes, like if she has a new device, like I think she has a new device now, she'll need to connect to the Wi-Fi, and you just go, instead of asking what's the password, you just go to that place and look at the password. So they tell the story that of how Ted couldn't remember the password, and they had it, over, at a centralized location so that you can just go look. I'm telling all of this because it's pivotal and key to something that happens later on in the episode. So they're talking, and then Tyrell comes in and he's all frantic because he's being followed. Turns out he's not necessarily being followed, but he's being tailed because, as we heard the other day, Martin has increased security because of the campaign. So everybody is being tailed. And Smitty goes off because he can't be slick and lying and sneaking and hiding with this story that he's doing if he's being tailed. So he's like, "I'm only tailed when I'm with y'all, not when I'm by myself," because he needs to be able to shake and move the way he needs to do this story. But anyway, Jacob calls him and he is saying that he's going to speak with his dad, and he does speak with his dad, and he asks his dad if he can get some help at the hospital because he can't really go to the hospital because everybody knows who he is. Well, speaking of going to the hospital, when Smitty leaves home after Jacob calls, Smitty goes to the hospital and sneaks into his mother-in-law's office and looks under, figurines and things that she has in her office, finds her username and password, and hacks into her computer to get information. And I'm okay. I know that he wouldn't do anything to get Nicole in trouble or anything, but why would you hack into your mother in law's computer computer at work. You just don't do that. Certain things you just don't do. And I think that he really crossed the line. I don't like that, Smitty. And I'm not even like the biggest Nicole fan because she get on my nerves with her treatment of Kat. But I don't like Smitty doing that. Like, don't play with people's job. Like, that's I don't like that. But anyway, Ashley and Grayson are talking, and he brings her a flower, and she's asking about his mom. She wants to meet his mom, but he comes up with another excuse. Y'all think his mama really sick, or is he lying to Ashley and Jacob? Because I don't know. Because I'm side eyeing everybody right now at this point. Because I don't know. Then we have Marcel and Elon there catching up, and in comes Leslie, and she gives the chief donuts, and she starts flirting with Marcel because that's her man or whatever. And why she buying that man clothes? He said he got a closet full of designer clothes that she bought him. You gotta buy a man? Girl, you just can't win. You can't get a man. You can't trap a man. You just can't You just can't do it, Leslie. Give it up, girl. Don't nobody want you unless you paying for it. But anyway, whatevs. She is talking to Marcel, and she tells him about her interaction with Jacob's mom, well, Isaiah's mom, same lady. And she's like, she was nasty and blah blah blah. He was like, yeah, she don't like me neither. The only reason she was kind of cool is because she was friends with my ex-wife, my soon to be ex-wife. And she's like, oh. And he was like, let me take you out. And she was like, yeah, wear something purple because it's gonna match me. And I Leslie irritates me, and I think that is a understatement. So then Leslie leaves and goes to Orphe Jean, and when she's at Orphe Jean, she runs into Darlene, and they have a few words. But I don't think Jacob Mama too worried about Leslie because she also met with Naomi, and she was apologizing for putting Naomi in a tough spot when Isaiah called and asked to use the burner phone. And she also wanted to talk to her about Eva. And Naomi gets on my nerves. Like the pre family gets on my nerves. Not so much Gran and not so much Danny because they still have the rightful indignation against those two. But, Anita is kind of cool about it, and she's not going to let it consume her. But Danny, she don't give a mm-mm. But everybody else just want to just like brush it because Naomi starts talking about how, Nicole is over it and she's forgiven Eva. Forget forgiving Eva. Eva has done nothing to earn any forgiveness. She has done nothing to earn any forgiveness. And also, she continues to bait your daughter because I don't care. The issues between Eva and Kat are not one sided. It's not like, oh, Kat is the big bad wolf. She gives as good as she gets. She slept with Kat's boyfriend. She intended to do that. And so you can miss me with all of that. Miss me with all of that because it wasn't some accident and oh, Tomas is big and bad. I hate Tomas. Yeah, Tomas is bad. However, she preyed on Tomas and his stupidity. She knew what she was doing from the jump, and I don't feel sorry for her. And she want to cry now. It was like, oh, well, no, you are just as bad. You give as good as you get. You call Kat all kinds of bees and everything else. Don't try and act innocent. I don't buy the innocent act from Eva. So I was kind of mad at Naomi trying to clean it up where Eva is concerned because no. And so then Eva is upset with Isaiah because she heard her mother call her the spawn of Satan, but your mother is literally Satan. Like, I don't know what you expect the lady to say. You want her to say you the spawn of Mother Teresa, but your mother's not a saint. Your mother is evil and hateful and murderous, and you are an accomplice. You're an accomplice. I'm sorry. You until you distance yourself from your mother and her homicidal ways, you're just as bad as her because you're aiding and abetting what she does. That's it. That's all. I don't care. But, I didn't mean to get on my soapbox about Eva today. Sorry. But that was the episode today. Can y'all believe Smitty? I just don't like that. Like, your mother-in-law, why would you do that? But yeah, yeah. I will be back tomorrow so that we can close out the week. Let me know in the comments what you all thought about today's episode. It was kind of dull. Very dry. Oh, and Samantha went off on June. Oh Lord. This is going to be a bit rough because I accidentally deleted my notes. So y'all bear with me. I'm going to do this the best I can. But let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, April 10th, 2026. So with this episode, we have pick up where we left off yesterday, where Smitty is in Nicole's office hacking into her computer, and Naomi comes in and is like, "What are you doing here?" So he covers his tracks and says that he was dropping off something for Samantha for Cotillion, and that he decided to leave Nicole a note. And, they start talking, and she was like, "Well, give me some paper so that I can leave her a note as well," because she was dropping something for the Dupree Foundation. And he's like a deer in the headlights because ain't no paper for him to be leaving a note because he wasn't leaving a note. So then he picks up some paper and give it to her, but the paper that he gives to her is her prescription pad. Come on, Smitty. So anyway, then he gets a call from Jacob asking him to meet him at the hospital, which Jacob has already told him not to be going to the hospital snooping because it's dangerous and you don't have no agency or anything behind you. Don't do it. But he's there doing it anyway. So when he goes to meet Jacob, he's like, "Oh, um," he goes to meet Jacob. He's like, "Oh, you got here quick." He was like, "Yeah, I was in the area." And then they're talking in the stairwell, which is stupid because anyone could be coming up or down. Anyone can hear your conversation. Anyone could still be in the stairwell. It's so stupid. Like, he's asking to be caught at this point. But they're talking in the elevator, in the stairwell, and Ashley comes into the stairwell to make a phone call to Grayson. And then Smitty shows him the information that he got off Nicole's computer. And Jacob is mad because why are you snooping? Like, you're not supposed, this is not what you're supposed to be doing, bro. Like, he's going rogue. He's doing too much. Like, he's doing too much. But then we have Joey and Vanessa. They're at the casino and they're talking. Um, and she's trying to, of course, let him in, get him to let her in on the other business dealings that she has because she has upped the profits of the escort agency. And he's like, "No, whatever." She gets a business call while Randy comes in, and he's talking to Randy, but makes a call or answers the call, and she's talking to Lynette about a property that she's showing Lynette. And so Joey is like, "Oh, your little friend," to Randy. And so Joey is on their ace. You hear me? He is on them. Like, y'all bets to be careful. So when Joey questions him, he then reaches out to Haley and asks Haley to meet him. And Haley goes to meet them because they're at Bill's office with Naomi, Chelsea, and Madison, and she don't really want to be around them no way. So she's like good for the escape. So she leaves out to go meet with Randy and he tells her that Lynette ain't leaving town, and we basically have a Lynette problem. Meanwhile, at the hospital, you know, Madison is talking to Ashley because Ashley is asking her about her research. And while she is talking to Ashley, a guy comes up and she's been served. So basically, what has happened is her mother, who believes in alternative medicine, has falsely used Madison's name to endorse a treatment that someone who went online and read the information is like, "Oh, it's endorsed by a doctor, let me do it." Instead of taking her child to a doctor, her child got deathly ill with sepsis and almost died for taking the information. And so she is suing Madison for malpractice. So because Naomi's in the hospital, and that's her sister-in-law, Madison is like, "Girl, look at this. What is going on?" And she's like, "Oh, if you never met her before, it could be frivolous, blah, blah, blah." And she looks and she's like, "Oh, do you know Willow Adams?" And she's like, "That's my mother." So then they all go. She calls Chelsea. Madison calls Chelsea and was like, "We got to postpone the wedding." And she's like, "What? You don't want to marry me no more? Like, what's going on?" She was like, "I'm being sued for malpractice." So her and Naomi go down to Bill's office to meet with Bill. And Naomi gives it to her. And he's like, "What do you think?" And she was like, it has legs, like. And so Bill's like, "Look, you should just settle." And Naomi's like, "No, I don't think you should settle because um this is clearly frivolous, and you should have taken your child to the doctor instead of going to the internet, because that is stupid, because who would do that?" But anyway, she's like, "You should fight it." So then Madison's like, "Yeah, I don't want to settle because I don't want to admit to any wrongdoing, but I do have, this trial, and my face is the face of this research and everything." And so she's like a little bit like unsure what she want to do, but ultimately she decides that she wants to go with Naomi's approach and she wants to fight it. And so then Bill is like, "Well, let me be co-counsel." And I like this. I like Bill Senior and Bill Junior working together on a case. I like it. I'm not mad at it at all, because I know that with Naomi and Bill at the helm, they will get to the bottom of this for Madison. And I'm also glad that there it's good to know people. So it's like good. Like, he mentioned about something about, when you marry to a family of lawyers. Like, no, no, this is really in your best interest. Like, thanks, fam. And then we have the kids, Tyrell and Samantha. As we stated, they were at Orphe Jeans with um June, asking June to come to the cotillion, and we saw that Samantha exploded yesterday about that. And Nicole like comes at the tail end of it, and she goes over there and she's trying to diffuse the situation, which she does. She's able to send Tyrell to go check on June. And I appreciate this, and I don't give the Dupree as much credit as I should. Not that I don't feel it, I just don't mention it. But the Duprees, they respect June. And I don't care what anybody says, the Duprees aren't bad people. They respect June. Nicole said her son is their parent. But she said, Tyrell, go check on your mother. And I just love that. But they all talk it out, and June has agreed to come to the cotillion because Samantha wants her there. She doesn't care about what the people how they may judge her or June. She just wants June there. She loves June and she cares for June and she wants June there. And I can appreciate that and respect that. Like I said, I get all sides of that. And then we saw a little bit between Nicole and Vanessa, and Vanessa can kick rocks. And I don't even like taking up for Nicole, but Nicole didn't do anything wrong in that dinner. She did come with a positive attitude, and Joey started on them. So it is what it is. But that was Beyond the Gates for this week. I'm excited about next week. Have a good and safe weekend, and I will be back with y'all next week. Bye.